Major headline today, tough talk from the Vice President Joe Biden traveling in Kiev, Ukraine. The Vice President warning Russia that it's, quote, time to stop talking and start acting to reduce tensions in Ukraine. He also called Russia's move to annex Crimea illegal.
No nation has the right to simply grab land from another nation. No nation has that right. And we will never recognize Russia's illegal occupation of Crimea, and neither will the world.
That continues, that tour. Meanwhile, in New York, Republican Senator John McCain was in Ukraine just about a week ago, returned about 4 days ago. Nice to see you, Senator.
Thank you, Bill.
Welcome back here. We'll never recognize a Russian Crimea, neither will the world. What do you think of that?
Well, when he said it's time to act and not have rhetoric, why don't we act? Why don't we sanction some more people? Why don't we say that we've got a plan to give them energy independence? Why don't we give them defensive weapons so they can defend themselves? Do you know, incredibly, that we agreed to give them some MREs, some meals ready to eat, and this administration would not fly them in on U.S. aircraft. They had to be driven in civilian trucks because they didn't want to, quote, antagonize.
It would seem
that's so bizarre. It's unbelievable.
It would seem very protectionist on our side. But let me just drill through a couple of things here. We pledged $50 million today to Ukraine, which goes on top of the other things we've given them. Isn't that not a signal and a sign that the White House is moving closer toward that partnership?
I think
and
it's helpful, but they have had their country dismembered. Crimea is gone. Do you ever see the president say we're going to get Crimea back? And we have troops all over the eastern part of Ukraine. We have troops, 40,000 massed on the Russian side of the border. And Vladimir Putin is now calculating what the cost-benefit is if he goes and takes Odessa and then up to Transnistria in Moldova. So we are begging him to come around and negotiate and talk and all that, and he just moves steadily on. Well, it is disgraceful, and the rhetoric does not match the action. 11 people have been sanctioned, Bill, and one bank.
You had pictures on the front page of newspapers yesterday of these Russian special ops in eastern Ukraine. I'm sure that did not surprise you. But back to Vladimir Putin, right? What is his calculation right now? His calculation, as he has said, and I've said, is that the worst thing that happened in the 20th century was the breakup of the Soviet Union. He wants to restore that. Ukraine and Crimea are very, very important parts of that. But I predicted that he would take Crimea because of Sevastopol, a military base there. But it's hard for me to predict because, you know, we hear rhetoric from our side carrying the president, well, we're going to negotiate, we're going to do this. And Lavrov and Putin say they're acting provocatively, you better stop them. You know, there's this huge disconnect. And it is almost as if we're dipping our toe in the water here, but not getting fully submerged. What then is President Obama's calculation? And as I say that, you were with Dick Durbin, senator from Illinois, who's very close with President Obama, has been for years. Now, apparently he supports your position to go ahead and give light arms to the Ukrainian military. Now, I assume he passes that word to President Obama. And then what?
This president does not believe in American exceptionalism, America's role to lead in the world. And that doesn't mean we should have boots on the ground everywhere or anywhere for that matter. But we have to understand that Vladimir Putin will take whatever he can get while we are saying, oh, gee, we got to go to, you know, going to Geneva. You know, Geneva is now a metaphor for do nothing. I mean, watch a few days. We got to go to Geneva again and talk about this while the Russians consolidate their position in eastern Ukraine. And the Ukrainian government has great difficulty getting their economy in order, getting the IMF loan, getting all of the things that they need to get their country going.
You know, they had a government, I should say, because things have dissolved quickly over the past 12 months. Why is the move on Crimea so critical to the United States?
Because if you let him do that and get away with it, then he is encouraged. These kind of people are always encouraged. Look back in the 1930s when Hitler went further and further and further. I'm not predicting World War III, but I am predicting that if Putin thinks the price he pays for absorbing part of a country is 11 persons sanctioned and one bank. By the way, you know, he sanctioned me.
I think you were proud to be on that list. John Brennan, the CIA director, was in Kiev about a week ago. I don't know what that was all about. Perhaps you have some intel on that. But quickly, what you're describing here is a scenario where Putin senses weakness, and when he does, he capitalizes.
He senses weakness, and by the way, there is weakness. I cannot believe what we're doing. I cannot believe 150,000 people have been massacred in Syria, 1 million refugees in Lebanon. The Chinese defense minister, when Hagel was over there, said, by God, we have the East China Sea is ours. Look, you see these people taking advantage of American weakness. Ronald Reagan said, peace through strength. And that's the way you achieve it.
Senator, thank you. John McCain, Republican from Arizona. We'll speak again.
Thanks, Bill.
Welcome home.